Right guys, so I'm going to talk to you about the anchor trolley itself that you're going to attach your anchor to when you're out in the water. I'll show you the anchor trolley first, how I've constructed it on my kayak. I'll then show you how I make up my anchor system, and then once I'm out in the water I'll show you how to anchor up and how to pull your anchor in. So first of all, you're going to need a bit of rope that's double the length of your kayak, and then on the end here I've just put in some rings. I've screwed them in, and then I've got a little carabiner that clips onto that with a little pulley attached to the carabiner. Then I've got my rope that's double the length of my kayak that's fed around the pulley, goes all the way along the side of my kayak, and then halfway on one strand of the rope I've attached a big carabiner. This is for attaching my anchor system, and as you can see I've used cable ties to stop the knots from slipping. This is for when the rope gets wet, the knots can slip. Anyway, carrying on, so I've got my rope then carrying along the side, and then same on the other side. I've just screwed a ring in with a carabiner and a pulley. And that is my anchor trolley. Look forward to the next bit, which I'm going to show you my anchor system and how I make it, and then we're going to head out in the water. First of all, you're going to need an anchor like this one here. Now, simply a case of attaching a meter of chain to the top of the anchor, as you can see there. Then my chain comes along, and I've got a cable tie that holds the chain on there. The reason for this is so if my anchor gets stuck on the ground, if I pull this hard enough, eventually that cable tie will break. This chain will move around to the front of the anchor, and my anchor will come in that way opposed to that way. Anyway, carrying on, so I've got my chain that comes along and then connects onto some line, which goes onto my dive reel or anchor reel, whatever you want to call it. I've then got a piece of rope that attaches from my dive reel, and then on that rope itself I've just tied a knot, as you can see there, and I've got a buoy attached. This is for quick releasing, so should I have to quick release from my anchor, I can come back and grab my anchor by just finding the buoy. Following the rope along then, I've got a carabiner attached to the end of the rope, and I've just used a little cable tie there to stop the knot from slipping. That basically is my anchor setup. So I've got my anchor, meter of chain, chain attached to the bottom of the anchor with a cable tie, attaching the chain to the side. Following on from the chain, anchor reel, buoy, rope and carabiner. Sweet, so I'm going to paddle out now and I'll show you how to anchor up. Right guys, I'm going to show you now how to anchor up your kayak. There's two ways you can anchor it up. You can either anchor up from the front, or you can anchor up from the rear. Things to think about is, are there any snags in your area, such as rocks, cables, so on. The direction the tide's flowing, you know, how fast the tide's flowing. But basically, it's just simply a case of getting your anchor out. I just put my legs over the side of the kayak, that's just for stability. Some people don't do it, I do it. I just like it, it's just in case I have to lean, I can lean. But it's simply a case of just getting the anchor set up like I showed you earlier. Just making sure nothing's tangled. The last thing you want to do is let your anchor out if it's tangled. You're fighting against the weight of the anchor while trying to untangle the line. Sorted, so that's the anchor untangled now, and I'm literally simply going to attach it to my anchor trolley, as you can see here on the side. It's literally a case of put my paddle forward, grab the carabiner that goes to my anchor reel, just attach that onto the anchor trolley itself, like so. That's now attached. Then move it all as far back to the back of your kayak as you can. I'm going to anchor from the back, so I'm going to be facing the flow of the tide, so the tide's going to be behind me, flowing past me. The problem with anchoring from the front is your lines are in front of you, plus you're facing the tide, which means the waves are going to be crashing over. You're probably going to have wind in your face as well, and your line could get caught in your anchor line. Your lines could end up going that way, depending how strong the tide is. so I just prefer anchoring from the back. It's simply a case of just pulling it all the way to the back. That's my anchor trolley now, the back. Just put my anchor over the side, and then I'm just going to release the line until I've hit bottom. Right, it's low tide now, so there's no tide at all, it's calm, but obviously the tide's going to rise, you're going to need more line, and you want your line doing more of that angle rather than that angle, so let out some more line than you usually would, especially if you anchor up in low tide and it's rising. I'm letting out enough line now so that when the tide rises, my anchor doesn't get pulled under my float. Right, that's me anchored now. Let out a little bit more line. Yeah, that's my line out. Simply case just throwing it over the side. And as you can see, it's now anchored up and it's pulling me around to the direction of the flow of the tide. Turning around now. So that's me anchored up now, facing the flow of the tide. Now I can fish. Next part I'll show you is probably the most important part about anchoring, and that is pulling your anchor in. So look forward to that, and I'll see you in a bit. Right, so I'm going to talk to you now about bringing your anchor in. It's probably one of the most important parts about anchoring your kayak. Things not to do. Don't put the anchor to the side of the kayak. I'll show you in a minute what I mean. Because if there's a strong tide and your anchor catches on something on the bottom, it could potentially throw you off the kayak. So the first thing I do is I get my paddle, off the paddle leash, and I place it in front of me. Next thing I do is I put my feet are in the water, so the reason why I do this is for a bit of stability, so that if I do feel myself pulling a bit to the side, I can lean in the opposite direction and counterbalance. But basically, all you do is you pull your anchor around to the side, or not directly to the side, but what I do is I pull it just to the back of me. So my anchor's now, my anchor line is just to the rear of me now, and I go and I grab the rope, I pull it, and now as you can see I'm turning sideways onto the water. The tide's flowing from my right to my left, and there's a bit of wind, so there's a bit of chop. Basically what I'm doing is I'm leaning the opposite direction a little bit just to counteract the pulling. Just being careful obviously with the waves. I mean, there's other ways of doing this. You can put your anchor in from the front and reel the line in like so, but I don't like that. I just prefer this method. I want to get it in the kayak as quick as possible. So I'm basically just grabbing the air, slowly but surely, just leading and pulling the line. And make sure you lay it out neatly in front of you, so if you have to let go, you can just let it go. But just remember, if you let it go and it goes out, you need to pull your anchor trolley to the back of your kayak as quick as possible. Otherwise the line's going to go taut and suddenly just pull your kayak and will throw you off. So just be careful now, I'm just pulling slowly, just placing on the excess line in front of me. What you want to do is, when you get to your anchor, you want to pull it into your kayak as quick as possible. Also remembering that once your anchor's on here, depending on how fast the tide's flowing and the wind and all that, you could, by the time you pulled it in and reeled it in, you could have drifted like 300 meters plus, you know, and that's not what you want. Right, so I'm getting close to my anchor now. And all I'm going to do is now off the bottom, I'm just pulling it up as quick as possible. That's my anchor up now, and all I'm going to do is place it there. And a little trick for you, is throw all this line that's now in a nest, throw it in the water, like so. And then what the tide will do is the tide will straighten that line out for you. It's simply a case of just reeling it in now. Make sure you reel in before you go back, because the last thing you want is a bird's nest that potentially you could get caught on when you're getting out the kayak. Let's pull this around. Right, so my line's now straightened out in the tide, and all I'm doing is just reeling it in, like so. stowing your anchor now, make sure it's out of the way of your legs. And the last thing, don't forget, is to remove your line from your anchor trolley. If you don't do that, when you try and get out of the kayak, when you hit the shore, that's going to get wrapped around your leg and you're going to trip and and so on. So yeah, that is pulling in your anchor. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have fun making your anchor systems and tight lines.